Hello, everyone. Welcome tonight to South Carolina Linux Users Groups, which is the Columbia Linux Users Group in Columbia, South Carolina, and the Upstate Carolina Linux Users Group here in Greenville, South Carolina. Welcome, everyone. Good to see everyone. Good to see you. Good to see everyone online. Hello, everyone. Tonight we've got Jim Ciallella. Do you have to use the finger thing?
Yeah,
to help?
Spicy meatball.
And what's the American pronunciation?
Ciallella.
Okay, Ciallella.
And my username is Ciallella, which is all of my last name except the first
The
two
CI,
letters.
right? Welcome everyone tonight. And tonight we got Jim. He's going to be talking about desktop automation. And I guess now is a good time for me to talk about this weekend is Carolina Code Conference. It is here in Greenville, and if anyone is interested in coming to this who's not already signed up, there are tickets still available. And there's a discount code that I can give you later, or I actually got a couple of tickets. I think some other people in this room might have a ticket or two. But yeah, it's here in Greenville. It's going to be really cool. It's Friday and Saturday, right? And it's a one-track conference. It's really quite cool. And now, I'll let you take it away, Jim. Thank you.
Yes. I'll mention we're going to have some pre-event events here at OpenWorks. So we're going to have a lunch on Thursday for some speakers that are in town early, and anybody in the community. People in this room certainly are welcome to come. So we'll have a lunch, co-working day drop-in at OpenWorks. We'll have probably a beer or two before we walk to the pre-social or the actual official welcome social that's on the other side of town. So if you want to come out and enjoy all the Carolina Code Conference events, you can do that. You can pre-event here for all Thursday.
And I forgot to mention, Jim runs OpenWorks here. So the reason that we're always here is thanks to him. Well, and
yes,
Pam.
The community, we run OpenWorks like a open source software project. So I will say Pam and I are core contributors. We pay the bills and do the tours and do the day-to-day stuff. But the members run the space. Kristen and I, my wife who's in the back, we're out of town for a week and a half and nothing blew up. And that's a feature of this space, is that we can leave and the members run the space. I just augment the space. So yes, we are tied in with Hack Greenville, Carolina Code Conference, and a lot of the tech stuff. So we always provide space and try to augment events. So if you really want to make a full 3 days out of that, we're going to be doing stuff here on Thursday as well. So this talk is, I'll ramble on as long as you want, unless people start asking questions or talking about things they use. But this is sort of the transition from me being a full-time software developer to me running a business online, where my day-to-day switched from being programming to doing transactions a lot. So
Are you sharing your screen? Because I don't see you on YouTube.
Oh, sorry, we got a technical. Yeah, something crashed.
The Wi-Fi dropped. I think for everyone for a brief moment.
Oh, I see.
I got kicked. I think at the same time.
Sorry, folks. We got to
check.
Rejoin some Jitsi stuff. All right, we good now?
Okay. Now, if you will share your screen in Jitsi. Sorry, I want to make sure that the stream can see everybody, see Jim's screen.
We good?
Okay. Yes, thank you.
All right, so previous life, I was a partner in a web company where when I needed to automate things, it was usually on the terminal, it was on a server. I wasn't doing a lot of transactional things on my actual desktop besides interacting with servers, sending emails, that sort of stuff. Now I run an e-commerce business where everything is a transaction, interacting with distributors, interacting with customers, interacting with tracking numbers, purchase orders, a lot of physical world stuff. So things really switched for me, where a lot of the tools I'm going to talk about that saved me a lot of time weren't things that I either knew about or really thought a lot about when I was doing software development. But that doesn't mean that it can't help you guys, whether it's personal things or perhaps doing software development. These could be things that if I had the problem enough back then, I would have been like, I can automate that. Why am I doing that, clicking on that thing so many times? So I think that one of the transitions from software development into doing e-commerce was realizing I was copying and pasting things a ton of times, and that was super painful. And years ago, there was some Windows tool that allowed you to have like a clipboard manager, and I used that, and then they discontinued, and I didn't use it enough to really worry about it. But fast forward 15 years, and I'm like, damn it, I'm copying and pasting shit all the time, and I need something. So CopyQ is a clipboard manager I've been using in Linux for 4 or 5 years now. That is super helpful because I can see like as many things as I want. I set my clipboard manager to like, I can have 1,000 things. The last 1,000 things I copied, you can still see. And you can have multiple tabs. So there's like templated responses that I copy and paste to customers all the time. So that was sort of the beginning of my journey from not automating things on my desktop to automating things on my desktop. Just being able to go like, oh, I can go to this tab and CopyQ, and I can go tell this customer, I'm going to send to your mailbox, and I'm going to send you a message that tells you, before I ship this, make sure that you have a mailbox, because 3% of the time somebody does not have a mailbox at the location. So this is the origin story of my automation. Somewhere in this whole transition, I came upon Puppeteer, which is very much a web developer tool. I think Microsoft has its own version of it, and somebody here knows the name of that. It's not Puppeteer. It's like something very similar, Orchestrator or something like that.
Yeah.
Eric, you always know these things. Microsoft has its own version of Puppeteer, but I use Puppeteer still. And I realized...
Playwright.
There you go. I realized that I could automate some things with Puppeteer that were a pain in my ass to do, manually clicking, or just were very time consuming. So one of the first things I did with Puppeteer was realize that it could take screenshots of websites. And I was like, I don't just want to see one screenshot of a website. I have, say, 30 different websites that I want to monitor once a month or so for, say, a discounted coupon code or a discounted gift card or some sort of economic thing that I want to do. I don't want to visit the website every day. I just want to go run a script and see pictures of those websites and be able to scroll through them and see if there's anything that looks interesting to me. So I have a version of what I ran, and this could run super fast, except I throttle it so the websites don't detect that I'm like pinging their stuff with a bot. But this is an example of a few of the screenshots I take from the Federal Reserve website, because I'm mildly interested in economic data, and these were taken earlier today. And it visits the website, takes a screenshot, and crops it. And there's all sorts of other things on here that are more interesting to me, that are discounts and coupons and just random ass stuff. But imagine this is a web page that has 30 or 40 different screenshots that whenever I want to see, I have a little bit of time and I want to go scroll through this stuff, I can just go scroll and see screenshots of websites. So I don't have to actually visit them. But So I realized Puppeteer was very good at taking screenshots, but these. So I guess I was on vacation, so I didn't orient all this stuff so it flows right into Puppeteer. So because it's the next thing on my list, I'm going to diverge slightly and talk about a couple other more local computer hacks that I have. And we'll get back into the Puppeteer stuff when I do some later examples. But I've been running Ubuntu for probably 15 plus years. I just switched to Linux Mint. Honestly, I like Cinnamon better, Cinnamon desktop and little tiny things that doesn't crash as much. But one of the things that works in both Ubuntu, Nemo, which is their default file manager, and Nautilus, which is the Mint default file manager, is you can build right-click actions, which I didn't have a lot of reason for right-click actions when I was doing software development because I just wasn't doing repetitive stuff a lot. But now that I do this, I'll say you can. This is local share Nemo actions is where you would drop these action files, and similarly, it'd probably be share Nautilus actions. But you can build these little scripts. So I'm going to pull this up on my command line here. You can see some of the little actions I've built, and I'm going to open one of them up so you can see what they look like. Sorry, got to change directory. Jace is cringing because he can do all this stuff in like a fraction of a second that I'm doing. Now I can't see what I'm typing.
Click on hide right there.
What's that?
Click on the hide. Stop sharing hide.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yes. What I'm typing is hidden behind a box.
To say hide.
So the whole point of this Nemo is the file manager. So when you're looking at files on your local desktop, usually you're just copying and pasting and moving things around, but you can select and multi-click and you can do stuff on those files. And I didn't realize that until a couple of years ago. I was like, I'm like trying to resize photos all the time, trying to merge things together all the time. Like this is a pain in the ass to do it. Even the command line is a pain in the ass because you can't really easily select many files from the command line. So with these tools, I can now go into, so this is Nemo, which is very similar, probably a fork of Nautilus. And I can right click files, or I can click on files, and then I can see these actions that were in that directory. So I can reduce the size of files, I can flip them, I can rotate them. You can do whatever you want here. You could merge them together. There's like all sorts of very cool things you can do that from the command line you could do them, but it's way, way faster in most cases to just be like, let me select a couple things, right click on them, and boom, do something. So this is, again, it's not something that when I was doing software development, I was doing very regularly. It's only when I became like doing a lot more images and PDF files and transactional things that it became way more apparent why I would need these tools. So related to this is that every time I start my laptop from reboot, I want to fire up different applications, and Mint and Ubuntu and all these provide like a startup application thing. If you start startup, you can go in here and you can fire up whatever you want. And sure, you can do it at a lower level from, the system daemon thing, but this is a lot easier. But there are some things that just don't happen. So when I fire this stuff up, I want to open up like 7 or 8 different tabs of things that I always go to in my file manager. And then Nemo allows you to, and Nautilus allows you to open up a secondary tab to the right of the primary tabs you're looking at. But then I also want it to go to a particular directory. So I'm going to show you, I wrote a little alias that will, every time my computer starts, or anytime I inadvertently go, oh shit, I just closed my file manager and I want to reopen everything right back to where I went to. I wrote this little script that uses xdotool. Xdotool is basically Puppeteer for the desktop. So xdotool can go and click on stuff and move things around and type characters. It acts like, it's like you, but for your desktop environment. So assuming this worked correctly, it's going to open up 7 tabs, and it opens the secondary tab on the side, and it opened it to a particular directory. So all of that would have taken me like 20 seconds or something to do, at least 20 or 30 seconds. So I just ran that one alias, but anytime I start my laptop, this happens. So I don't have to, every time I start my laptop, I don't have to open up my browsers. I don't have to open up my terminal. I don't have to open up my file manager. I don't open up 7 or 8 tabs in my file manager. I don't have to open up the side window. I don't have to open it to this particular directory. Every time I do this, every time I start my laptop, it just happens. So this is a combination of using just standard command line tools and using xdotool to click on stuff and like do basically keyboard commands that you would otherwise have to do. So 20 or 30 seconds seems inconsequential, but I regularly accidentally close my file manager because I'm in a habit of doing Control W to close things. And I'll close that and I'm like, damn it, now I got to reopen it. And now I have a tool that just reopens it right back to where I was. Another thing I only in the last couple months realized, I built a script that does some interactions with my e-commerce, and I create a PDF file that I want to print. And sometimes that thing doesn't work correctly. Sometimes it's like the e-commerce website's fault. Sometimes things just don't work. But I wanted to be able to get the file I was trying to print out of the trash, because typically I would print the file, print this PDF file, and then I immediately have the command line delete it. And I realized like I don't want it to delete it, because when you do a RM on Linux, it's gone and you can't get it anymore. So I searched the internet and found out there is something called geo. You do geo trash and a file name. You can put this in a script, and instead of completely obliterating the file forever, you can move it to the trash in your system. And I actually used this morning because the script I use every day failed for some reason, but the file was there. So I actually wanted to still print that file. And I pulled that file out of the trash and I printed it, and I was like, oh, this is like super awesome. If I had done remove like I normally would do, the file would have been gone, and I had to basically try to recreate this whole thing manually. So it's a little bit piecemeal. I was on vacation for like a week and a half, so I put this together this morning. So things aren't going to flow perfectly, but these are all the kind of neat things that I've figured out over the years that really saved me a lot of time. One of the other things that I didn't have a ton of use for was, I'm calling it a GUI search bar. Like on my computer, when I hit the Windows key, it comes up with a search bar and I can type stuff. And mostly that stuff it already knows about, files in your file system, applications, but you can tell it to do things pretty much like aliases in the command line. And for the most part, I build aliases in the command line, and then I build, we'll call them actions or application. I don't know what they call them, shared applications here. I build these desktop files that will actually call my aliases. So when I Sorry, we're gonna have to reconnect things. Well, the one I was pointing at actually didn't pull up when I was typing it, but there is a related one. So all these .desktop files that are on my screen are part of what happens when you type when you hit the Windows key. Do we have a different name for it for Windows key? Do we call it something else?
Meta?
Yes, when you hit the meta key.
Super.
Super key.
Super, you're
Yes, when you hit the super key, and you start typing words, you can map them to these desktop files, and those desktop files can then call whatever, a script, an alias. So I'll show an example of that more precisely in a next step. But that to me was an interesting thing. It's like, it's not terribly different than just running an alias in your command line. You go down here and type whatever your aliases are, but being able to hit the super key and type something without actually having to transition to a terminal is oftentimes very helpful. So some of the other things that I've found very useful are interacting with the physical world. So like printing, using a barcode scanner, using an actual scanner part of the printer. So Linux is surprisingly good at talking to printers and scanners, at least in my experience. And there's a command that may or may not be part of the default packages, but certainly easy to install if it's not. So if you want to see a list of printers that Linux knows about, you can do this lp stat-p command, and not all of these are online. Sometimes it remembers things that are from like a previous location, but I've gone to my dad's house, my brother's house, my mother-in-law's house, like my mother's house, everybody's house, run this command. It finds some stupid, Epson or HP printer on their network, and all I got to do is go and like tweak something, and I can print my daily PDF file to their printers just by copying this little like name thing that it pulls out there. So if you have something that you want to print fairly regularly, it's quite easy to automate this from the command line to say like, I want to print this file to this machine. And lpstat is the primary command. This is an example of a command of how you actually trigger the print. So lp-p1 just tells it to print just page 1. The Epson is the printer that's sitting below my laptop. You can change things like draft mode if you don't want to waste ink, black or grayscale. You can change print quality. So to make this more exciting, I'm going to run that, and the printer below me is going to print a piece of paper. And if you're just printing one-off stuff from the internet, it's not super helpful. But if you have transactional things that you're doing every day, it's incredibly powerful, because I have a script where I need to visit 2 of my e-commerce websites, grab PDFs, I merge them together into one PDF file, and then I tell the printer to print that, not 2 pages. I actually tell it to print 2 pages on 1 page. So when I go into the post office, I say, here's my scan sheet, and I don't have to hand them 2 pieces of paper. I hand them 1 piece of paper, and they go bloop, bloop, and they scan everything that I have to drop off in 1 scan. That's super helpful. Again, this is not, I didn't align everything to be super like one thing into the next, but another thing that I've used for many years, I haven't used rclone for a long time. I used previous, like there was G Drive and Drive, or like Google Drive things where you could take files from your local system, you could push files up, you could pull files down. And rclone is a much more agnostic. It doesn't care what system you're trying to interact with remotely. But I've switched over to using rclone, and I'm going to take, in this example, a file that's sitting in my uplug directory here, a PDF file, and I'm going to push it up to the OpenWorks Google Drive. And I may have typed something that was wrong there. It's missing in AMP. So just like that, I told it to pull this up, but this ow.pdf file was just instantly pulled from my system up there. That's like super helpful. A lot of times I'm dealing with receipts and invoices and stuff like that. Give a shout out to Synergy Mill and Makerspace in town. When I pay, OpenWorks has a corporate membership there. When I pay our monthly bill, I have a script that'll actually download the PDF and then push it up to OpenWorks receipts file. So I don't really have to like remember these 20 steps every month that I have to do. It's just being able to take a file and throw it up into Google Drive, or I'm sure it works with S3 and all sorts of buckets and things like that. That's like very, very helpful. So it's not rsync, it's rclone, which is a totally different app. So I was using these were actually web developer tools, and I won't belabor these because you probably know a lot of these things, but back in my web dev days, we would get image files from clients, and they would be gigantic files, and they'd be not optimized, and you'd like, we're not going to upload these to your website because everything would be like progressively loading so slow. So as part of our kind of like pre-DevOps stuff, like I'm so old that we didn't even call it DevOps then. You'd just be like, let's just do stuff that's important to do. Like anytime we run like a deployment, let's just like automatically optimize all the image files in this directory, or like recursively, we'll just optimize everything just as a oh shit. So for many years, I've been using JPEG Optim and PNG Quant, which were at the time like what Google was using to score you on how good your website was doing. So these are aliases that I've been using for a long time that will, particularly this JPEG Opt one, it'll go, whether recursively or just in a directory that you're in, it'll go in there and like do a really, really good job of like compressing that file about as much as you could possibly want to. You can tweak those values using this, it was M85 on here is like a compression level. You can tweak those. But this is like sort of a hybrid of my old life and my new life. There's a lot of times now where I want to email somebody an image file or send a customer a picture, be like, hey, I sent this to you. Here's a picture of what I sent you. And I don't want to send them like a 4,000 by 2,000 picture. So I'll compress it, I'll resize it, and between JPEG Optim and Mogrify, which is one of the libraries that's part of ImageMagick, you can really instantly, just like compress a ton of files. When earlier I showed you when you can right click on image files and resize them, rotate them, all that stuff, a lot of that is based on ImageMagick tools. And I think one of the commands I have in there is to be able to select multiple files, right click on them, and just cut them in half. Like, I just want you to be half of the size that you are, because I normally don't want to send somebody a gigantic photo. And so these are, I'm not going to run these scripts, but these are examples of how you can, from the command line or from right clicking, how you can easily like optimize files. There's a ton of things you can do with PDF files. I only put one in here, and I can see that that's wrong, but being able to take two PDF files, merge them together, or be able to go into PDF file and grab page 1 and page 10 or page 1 through 5 or whatever it is, These are all things that are super easy with command line tools and things that I do quite regularly that I have aliases for them. So I'm just going to run a real quick example here. So I just took 2 PDF files that were in this directory and merged them together, and now they're one file. And I had to open it up. So the last thing, actually, let's skip over. So I didn't even put it in here. It's so exciting. The barcode scanner part is, over the years, I've built all sorts of tools that when I have a tracking number or a purchase order number, business related things, I want to go pull those up in my web browser. But it's super, super cumbersome to go and figure out what is this barcode. Sometimes I get things returned to me 2 months after somebody got it because the address was wrong. And I'm like, is this Amazon? Is this eBay? I don't even know where it came from. So to figure out what order this barcode's even related to could take me like quite a long time. So I built scripts over the years where I can just start to put in tracking numbers or even purchase order numbers. And in the last 6 months, this is my intro to AI. I said, hey, AI, can I just have a dialogue pop up where I can just like paste a number in or scan something, and you'll like then transition that into my actual scripts that'll do something? And it's like, sure, you can do this. So this is an example of a lot of things all at once. So earlier I mentioned you can write little scripts, and when you hit the super key, you can make it trigger something. So I'm going to trigger this lookup details, and lookup details is going to pop up a dialog box that asks me to do something. And I could paste something, I could type it in. Usually it's easier for me to scan it in. So I'm going to scan this. This is a Amazon. I hate Amazon. I'll go on record that I hate Amazon. But I still sell for them, because stop buying from Amazon. I want to sell for them. So I'm going to scan this, and it's going to figure out, this is a return address, from, I don't know, 4 or 5 months ago. It's going to figure it out. And it's going to not only open up that transaction, it's going to open up like 4 or 5 other tabs. So this is where Puppeteer comes in. Puppeteer takes the barcode that I scanned and does some logic. It's more Node.js. It does some logic. It figures out, okay, what do I want to open up? And it opens up the exact things that I might want to do. So sometimes I want to dispute that transaction and say, like, this person's an idiot, they returned it damaged or something like that. Sometimes I just want to give them their money back, whatever. But here, just scanning that barcode opened up 4, 5 tabs in my browser, and that I otherwise would have had to spend quite a lot of time to go figure out how to open those all up. So there's information on like how much did they spend on it, how much did I pay for them to return it back. That's not normally something I need to use a lot, but it's kind of helpful. This is if I thought they were an idiot and I wanted to dispute their claim, I could easily just go in here and dispute their claim. If I want to return the item back to inventory, it's open up that tab. It even opens the message history, so I can go read what did I say to that customer 3 months ago before they returned the package. So that's sort of the culmination of a lot of these different tools and like how powerful they can be, is that I would spend potentially like 3 or 5 minutes just trying to open up all those tabs to figure out, like, I need to figure out what order it is. What did I say to them in the past? Do I want to actually file a complaint against them? Do I want to return this in my own inventory? Similarly, that same lookup script, it doesn't just work for returns. I can have a distributor sends me something, and I can scan it with my barcode. Look up. Sorry. I can have my interface here. Instead of scanning a return authorization number barcode, I can scan a purchase order number. And this doesn't go nearly as far as it could. It just immediately knows the purchase order that I just received. I could very easily use Puppeteer to have it click on the only elements on the screen. I could very easily have it go to hit receive. I could pretty much make it do all of this stuff automatically. I've already received this item, but normally there'd be a thing on the screen that would say, unreceived or things to be received. I could virtually automate all of that, where all I have to do is go, boom, click, and it'll receive everything in that purchase order barcode. So the last thing, which I've been using for many years now, is when we have people sign up for OpenWorks. I don't use DocuSign or anything like that. I just have people sign a piece of paper, and usually I say, just give me the last page of the agreement where you've signed it, and then I'll sign that piece of paper. And this script is not going to do exactly what I'm doing, but it's just an example of how I can trigger a scan from the command line. But normally when somebody gives me that signed piece of paper and I sign it, I run a script called OW, it's an alias called OW agree, and it gives me 10 seconds to walk from my desk in OpenWorks to the scanner less than 10 seconds away, throw the piece of paper underneath of it. It scans it while I'm still walking around. It scans it. It takes another file that has the first 3 pages of the agreements, merges them together. So now I have a fully signed agreement in the PDF file. Uploads it to the Google Drive where we save these agreements. Then it opens a window using some trick that Gmail has. It actually opens the email not to the person, but it opens the email including the link to the file that I just scanned. So I basically just hit that alias, walk across the room, put a piece of paper underneath the scanner, and then I go back to my computer and I type the person's email address and I hit send, and I was like, here's your signed agreement. So that's my cheap DocuSign using the Linux command line. I'm going to attempt to use this one last command here, which shows you that similar to how you can use the LP commands to scan stuff quite easily in Linux, I'm going to scan something that's on this flatbed printer that's sitting under my laptop. So this is quite amazingly, Ubuntu and Mint at least seem to do a very good job of figuring out scanners that are on the network. And generally, we'll see if this seems to be taking longer than usual, but
It just woke up.
yeah, they generally just work. It's so that just scanned the same page that I printed earlier, but scanned it sideways. So all these things combined save me an incredible amount of time. And as people that do web development or things that are in the digital realm, it's probably not going to be as applicable to you, but I hope that these at least keep in the back of your mind, whether it's for your current job or some future job, you're like, oh wow, I can easily do all sorts of stuff using scanners and printers and little super key tricks and stuff like that, copy queue commands. If you took all these things away from me, I would work hours more a day. So I'll leave it at that, and I'm curious to hear what you guys are using in your day-to-day for these sort of more transactional type of things. Andrew's got one.
I've got a question on your barcode scanning thing. What is that built in? It looks like a BIOS screen.
I don't. Jace knows everything. Yes. I can tell you what's triggering it here in a second. Let's see. We'll look up if I can remember what the name of that thing is.
Incursus?
It looks like in.
Is it the one after it?
Yeah, I don't remember I call it lookup, but I don't remember what the actual script underlying it is. It'll take me a second. Continue to the next question, and I'll figure that out.
You mentioned you used AI, I think, you mentioned you used AI to, I think, work on that barcode script. Is that something that you're, using more to, like, I guess, automate more?
Yeah, I'm not doing anything that's like build me a whole app. I'm just like do this one thing, and a lot of times I'm copying and pasting scripts I've already used. So it's like give me one new element. It's been super helpful for that. It's not as anything. It's not always right. You got to double check shit, and a lot of times it's like pretty close, or you still got to know something. More than anything, you got to know what to ask it. It's like no different than Googling or using a search engine 10 years ago. If you were really good at asking the right question or leaving out the right words, or even using like negative signs or ampersands or things like that, you would get way better results. So I think we are all, as we in the software development community kind of have the curse of knowledge. We don't realize that other people that are using these tools are probably getting good results, but they're not getting anywhere near as good results as we're getting, because we know how to ask the right questions, not only from how do you logically ask that question, but when I'm asking this, I'm asking something like, I would like you to give me a command line dialogue tool that pops up an interface so I can use a barcode scanner to hit scan. I'm like very specific about what I want, and poof, like that, it says you should use this tool. And I'll have to dig around in my code here, but within the first thing I asked for, it gave me basically what I wanted, and I was like, all right, it's got to tweak that. I'm using CopyQ, or I was using originally CopyQ to like pass values on my clipboard into that lookup command, and then I was like, why am I even copying and pasting stuff I can use in my barcode scanner? I have to like, do that part. So that script will actually take values either different ways I can run it. It'll take commands either from just literally hitting scan with a barcode scanner, or I can make it run where it'll just copy the first thing off of my clipboard stack. So I don't know if I showed CopyQ, but
is on.
if it starts to letter DY, then it's an Amazon bar.
Is on.
If it's so many digits, it's a FedEx barcode. If it's so many digits, it's a UPS barcode, or sorry, a post office. I even figured out, like in the post office barcodes, you can decode the first so many digits and figure out the zip code that it's going to is in there. I actually use that to figure out who I sent it through. So eBay, Amazon, return labels, they all have these different prefixes on the front. So I don't need to do anything fancy. I don't need to ask AI, like, let me spend hundreds of dollars a month for you to tell me that this barcode is from an eBay return label. I can just look at the digits on the front and very deterministically go, unless you change something, which is only going to happen maybe every like 3 or 5 years, you rotate some numbers. That barcode is, sorry.
I'm sorry, just for the stream's purposes, could you repeat the question? What's your answer?
Yes.
I got it now. You give it a predefined subset of barcodes to expect to see.
Yeah,
And
so
it can determine which
I'm at-
one it is.
The question was whether I'm using anything fancy to determine the barcode scan, and I'm not. I'm using just like substring matching. I'm not doing so many barcode patterns that I need like an AI to tell me what it is. And frankly, while I think it'd be good at that and can be very good at that, there's just no reason that I would spend money and, yeah, I mean, you're talking like there may be like less than 10 patterns that I would scan, and they're all very distinctive. If they were all extremely, similar, but then, the further you get into them being similar, the more likely that some AI would get it wrong. And it's like, I don't want you to get it wrong. I want to be very specific that when I scan this, I want you to pull my purchase order up. When I scan this, I want you to pull my Amazon return up. When I scan this, I didn't know I had a problem until I started running an e-commerce business. It was like, wow, these are really mundane, stupid problems I don't want to have to solve.
Speaking of mundane, stupid problems, so I still do software development consulting, and I was trying to think through like what automation I use, and it's basically all of the corporate bullshit that I have to do. So like I have a cron job to open up my timesheet every Friday at like 9:30 and to like auto populate it with just 8 hours to whatever my current client is, and et cetera, et cetera. Like I'm struggling to remember all the rest. It's a bunch of stuff like I'll frequently run into problems with I'm doing stuff in the terminal and my terminals are all the same color, but I'm working for 3 different clients. And I was like, okay, I should change the background or the title bar or something to like a different color and indicator. So I have like some automated scripts for that. So there's still a bunch of bullshit to do, even if you're doing random work.
Tell us about some of the, is there any tools in here that you're using, like command line tools that you're triggering that I didn't mention?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I have tons of scripts that are effective, like a ton of aliases and various scripts that are like find with various max steps. Some of them are basically extensions to Git. Like I have like just a bunch of them to do like statistics on like who's been contributing what portions. And one of the main ones is I'll go into a new client and they give me access to like an existing repo. And I'm like, who am I supposed to talk to about this? So I have one that does tell me who's done most of the commits on this repo, or like, but limited to, let's call it 6 months ago or something like that. Or give me a list of contributors to this, cut it off at anyone who has less than 10 commits should be ignored. Anyone over 3 years ago should be ignored. So I know who and give me their emails and whatever, and then open up Outlook and whatever. Generally, I'd have to do it at least like 5 times before I bother like doing that. But you only have to screw up the terminal one once before you decide to make it color coded.
Yeah, to me, AI has made it where things that I wouldn't have bothered to automate 2 years ago, or like I could probably build that in 15 or 30 minutes now, and you're reusing something that I was already doing, and is making it a lot easier to say yes to spending a little bit of time to automate something.
Yeah,
I was already doing that, but now I'm really doing it.
No, absolutely, yes. Yeah, I will often use it to come up with a really esoteric use case, like I want to search through a tar gzip, but I don't want to untar it. There's like a method to go in and do that, but I'm looking for specific strings, and I want the file name to be from inside the reference of where I'm located, not outside of my current directory. And I was like, I had to figure out how to do that, but like once it's done, it's like 40 characters long of a command line. I was like, this is going to be a function. This needs to be like stored somewhere. I'm never going to go look this up again. But yeah, AI kind of makes it a little bit now where I'm like, or, I don't have to do that. And I could just, the next time 4 years from now, when I have to do that again, why don't I just see if it can do it for me?
Yeah, I suppose eventually we just talk to things, but I think we had a pre-happy hour here. We were talking about the difference between, like, say, a computer science degree and technical degree, or just learning on your own. And at some point, you need to know how to ask the right questions. You can't just not know what you don't know. There's the curse of knowledge is not remembering what you know, and then there's the ignorance, which is you don't know what you don't know. So you can't possibly ask the AI or whatever the tool is the right question to get the right answer.
Yeah.
So it's very helpful to be asking something very trivial questions of like, how would I pop up a box that I can scan a barcode into? And it's like, bloop, here you go. And I'm like, this is awesome. This is going to save me like 5 minutes a day.
Yeah. I often find myself trying to decide between, is this something I could have Googled and other people have already figured out, and I'm just wasting my time putting 8 times as much context into an LLM in order to get an appropriate answer? Or is this something that's like so weird and niche of what I'm trying to do that it actually does make sense to like have an LLM figure it out for me?
Does anybody else have, I guess the more they go into the real world, the more interesting I'd be into, like using a barcode scanner or printer. But anybody else have tools that they're using to automate things in the desktop? I know we probably all have server related things, but more interesting, like, what can you do on your physical laptop, desktop? No. Does anybody learn anything tonight? I would hope.
I have one for you, Jim.
Yes.
I think similar to your using like the GUI key and using like the taskbar. So like my day job, I'm on a Mac, and there's a tool launcher called Alfred, but on Linux it's called Albert. And I love both those programs because it just lets you, it's like a search bar that you press a hotkey and it pops up. It can just search your files, but you can script it. So you can just put shortcuts that you're like passing. It's basically like adding a very small command line terminal into just a single bar that pops up. So you can write a script that you pass arguments to, like you could basically just port all your stuff that you've already made, and it's very fast to invoke.
Okay, that was Alfred and Albert.
Yeah, Albert on Linux is the app.
Ben says he has something to contribute. Go ahead, Ben.
I'm not sure if it's actually.
No, I'm just saying I was in the chat.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. The question was, does anyone in I sent anyone in here, but I meant, does anyone in here have automation? Sorry, I abbreviated too much.
It's good. We want to hear from Cola Lug.
Yeah. So, anyone online have questions or some tools that you use that you recommend for desktop automation?
Bonus if it involves a barcode scanner or a printer or a scanner.
Or reconnecting to Jitsi when the Wi-Fi drops.
or blinking lights, or anything in the physical world. Anything AI doesn't inherently do super obviously.
There was in the early 2000s the QCat barcode scanner.
Yeah.
That was in like.
Yeah, Radio Shack.
Yeah.
Radio Shack was giving them out for. Yeah. All right, here we go. Let's show how old I am. The Radio Shack had a promotion. They were giving them out for free, and you're supposed to like scan coupons or something like that and get something for it, some whatever. The thing was, it was like a PS2 connector, like for your keyboard or mouse, and it was a free IR scanner, which nowadays you can buy one for 25 cents, I'm sure, but like that was a big deal back in like the early 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have one. Like my brother-in-law like just had one sitting on a shelf. I was like, oh my God, like years after Radio Shack went out of business. So now I have it.
So my goal originally when I got that was to automate stuff, and I never actually.
Same. I also thought I was going to automate stuff with it, and I did nothing. It's sitting in my garage.
Much like what you're doing with an actual barcode scanner.
Yeah.
You just need
And
to have your office with barcodes all around it instead of programs.
Yeah.
these old barcode scanners, this is a Zebra that plugs into USB, and it's wireless back to the dock. And there are ways you can get them where they're wireless back to Bluetooth, so you don't even need a dock. But I think I probably bought this thing for $25 or something like that, and it's, that. And I bought probably for like $10. I bought an old credit card swiper. I get discount gift cards sometimes, and I want to check if they're valid. I just swipe the card and get the number. Oh, they didn't type it all. So you can get some of this old tech that, where security doesn't matter. You can get it super cheap on eBay, particularly. So yeah, this old thing, paid for itself. Like the first time I hit the button, like, you just saved me 2 minutes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Something I just highlighted on the screen, which is not going to be earth-shattering for a lot of people, but the XDG-open is something I just started using recently, which will open in this case, a PDF file, but it knows what my default program is. So that's been helpful, particularly with things like Flatpak and Snap, where the binary files that you might otherwise call to open a file are like some weirdo path. It's very helpful to just be able to call that XDG-open, and it knows whatever your PDF program of choice is, or your Excel file whatever. So I think when I was trying to build this little thing for tonight, I was like, oh, I'll just do LibreOffice Open or LibreOffice PDF file or whatever. And it was like, nope, that doesn't exist. And I was like, well, that's all right. I can just tell it to open my preferred program.
Some of the distros, just Alias Open has that too, so you can get rid of the XTG part.
All right.
Try in your distro.
Macs do that too. Mac, it's open.
There's a tool in Windows that does it as well. I can't remember. But if you're a multi-OS person, you can make your Bash RC have like XDG open and whatever it was for Windows.
I have a question.
Yep.
This goes way back. When I was in business school, I think it was a Unix system. It was a digital equipment system. But they had an editor called EDT, as I remember. And I used a 300 baud modem, so I used the line mode version. But when you were at school with the terminal, it brought up, I just remembered, an editor that looked very much like Nemo. But you could pass it like substitution commands. You could tell it to open the file and do this stuff to the file and then save it out as another name. So like you were saying, and I just wondered if EDT I was young and I had a year on it and got really enthusiastic about that. And then you graduate and all that goes away.
Yes.
And I wonder if EDT ever or something like that took its place.
Oh, wait, we have some.
That was a deck tool.
Was that proprietary to DEC?
Yeah. It was VaxOS.
Yeah.
Now I can't. Huh?
It was that was
Yeah.
proprietary.
It was
for
yes,
DEC.
it was. But then there are. I mean, you can use ED, which is the command line version of VI, and do
I'm just
similar things.
brand new. back to
Or
that.
use SED. I mean,
What is-
SED is a stream editor. So I use SED in shell scripts to automate tons of things, because that was, I mean, you're doing a lot of it for the desktop. And well, for me, a graphical UI, the benefit of a graphical UI was to be able to open more command lines. I hardly ever use the the file manager. I
Get a
don't know what-
customer, then you'll want a command, then you want a GUI, right? You're like, I
I
gotta
don't
talk
know.
to
I
this
just-
idiot. They
I
returned
use a
something and I
GUI
told
to
them it was
open